Alright, so I'm going to make this kind of short and sweet here. I've decided to do this in two segments, part one, part two. Part one, it's long. You'll see that. Part two is inside the cab, not so long, but I wanted to show everything that we said, that was said and that Nigel had to say. Great guy to hang around too, very knowledgeable. Yeah, these are really cool combines, and I hope you enjoy what we filmed. We did have some camera delays and problems. George Saunders has more footage, better footage, but for some reason I can't get it to download off of the app that he sent it through, so you're just going to have to deal with what I've got. He's probably got better sound quality. I am upgrading cameras so that my sound quality is better in the next videos that we do. But anyhow, hope you enjoy this, and yeah, stick around if you're interested in a New Holland Combine. This is the video for you. All right,
let us know where we need to start.
No, they're rolling.
They're rolling.
We'll edit all the fun stuff out. So.
Okay.
Anyways, I've got Nigel here.
Wes, good to meet you.
Good to meet you too. He's going to show us the CR11 at the show here today. So we're going to start at the front and work our way around and then end up in the cab.
Okay, well, first things first, Wes, I understand you've got a lot of history with the CR concept, going all the way back to TR70.
TR70, yes.
Well,
two TR70.
Two TR70.
Yes, we did.
Well, TR70 was the genesis of the... I'll have it. He's got a spanner. So TR70 was the genesis of this project. So over 45 years ago, the twin rotor concept came out, and this is the pinnacle of where we've got to with that machine. What we're trying to do with this one, when we designed this, we said, okay, we need output, we need capacity, but not at any cost. We've got to be able to keep losses to an absolute minimum. Losses are, they're a cost on you that you don't sign a check for.
Right.
They just rock up in the field behind you and no good.
Yep.
So output with zero losses is the aim. This design is a ground up design from the previous CR. So what we've done, taken a white sheet of paper, 95% of the parts on this machine are new or re-engineered specifically for it. So that gives you an indication of where we got. This is not just a little bit of fettling on the old one.
A little more horsepower and a couple new pins and bells and whistles. It's not that.
And a sticker. No, it's certainly not that. No parts carry. The cab, carries over,
sure.
but underneath the works of it are completely different. When we start looking at zero losses, we start looking at what we've got to change. And losses come from the threshold and separation system, and they also come from the cleaning chute. So it's no surprise that both of those are brand new. So the rotors are wider, 24 inches. So remember your old rotors on the TR70 were 17s.
I think they were 15 on the 70.
No, 17.
They were 17?
Yeah, 17 was a magic figure.
Okay. You would know because you were around then, right?
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, I am older than Methuselah. So yes, 17. So we've gone up to these 24-inch rotors now, and a 24-inch rotor with the extra diameter gives us more surface area around the rotor. So that gives us better thrashing, and it also gives us better separation. Longer as well, more separation. Then we've got to change the cleaning chute. So the cleaning chute itself, the old, as on your 8090, you've got a self-leveling cleaning chute.
Yes.
So it's very easy to understand how that works. If you tilt the combine over 10 degrees on a slope, guess what? The sieves tilt 10 degrees the other way, everything's back on the level. But that always assumes that everything is level on the grain pan to start with. What this combine does is we look at cross distribution. So we look to see that everything's level on the cleaning chute. And we do this with pressure sensors. So we have pressure sensors halfway down towards the back of the grain pan and then right at the back of the sieve unit. And these measure to see whether we're level on the grain pan. And it's what we call closed loop logic. So if the combine sees a problem, if it's all backed up on one side, for whatever reason, it may be slope, but chances are it may be poor feeding in the front because you're only feeding from one side of the head. So if that's happening, the combine will see it, it will react to it, and the way it reacts to it is it introduces a sideways moment to the movement of the sieves, and then it will
forces it over.
and levels it out. But then what it does is it checks to see whether it's solved the problem. And if it hasn't solved the problem, then it will move them even more. So it's not relying on, I'm tipping 5 degrees that way, so I'm going to shake 5 degrees the other. It doesn't do that. It looks to see exactly what the load is on the cleaning shoe and then compensate for it. The fun one is that we've got it in 2 halves. So we've got the sieves being looked after, we've got the grain pan being looked after, and what they noticed in testing was if you had poor feeding at the front and the grain pan was shaking to the left, if the slope was such that the rears needed to shake to the right, it would do it. So the front would go left, the rear would go right, just to maintain this level across the entirety of the cleaning shoe.
Cleaner grain.
Cleaner grain.
Less loss out the back.
Yep.
Less loss at the mill.
Exactly that.
Clean grain is key.
And that is it. Farmers can't sell stuff that you leave in the field.
No.
We have a guy who's involved in the testing program for this, coming from Scotland. I won't do the accent because you won't understand it.
No.
But he used to shout, "Every grain is a prisoner." He said, "I don't want anything going out the back of the machine. Every grain that goes in the front, I want it in the tank."
Yeah.
So, and he's absolutely right with that.
Right. Yeah, I hate seeing grain out the back. I don't get grain out the back on my old CR. I get grain on the ground from the head.
Yep.
And that's a lot of differences in the variety. You can't do that mechanically.
You can't do it mechanically, but you've got to be honest. What we call header losses at the front, the ones that happen before the combine gets into the field, if it's coming.
Good. Okay. Feeder house. We'll start here.
Okay. Well,
tell me the differences and the drive.
Okay. The drives are something very special. Remember what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get the chassis as wide as we can. But here in Europe, unlike where you are, we're very limited on width.
Oh, I've been on your roads.
They're fine. So we cannot go with a machine with a width in certain countries. Germany is one. We can't go over 3.5 meters. So we have to be able to get the combine within that envelope. We can go a little bit wider in the UK, which is only about 3.8, but we've still got to be able to have the machine capable of 3.5. So everything that we do, all the magic for getting the output has to be within, in essence, the 3-meter chassis. That's what we have to do. So what we've done, we've got the feed path as wide as possible, so basically up to the edge of the chassis. And then what we've done is we moved the drives within that 3.5 meter width. So we haven't got pulleys and belts running on the outside, or as few as we possibly can. And what we've done, one clever little thing that we've done, is we're using the left-hand rotor as a drive shaft. So that's within the chassis, and that comes down to the front of the combine, and then goes through to drive our dynamic feeder. Now, your combine's a little bit pre-dynamic feeder,
yes,
but it's one of the things that we've been using in Europe for over the last 10 years. So what it does is it comes at the end of the elevator, and what it does is it progressively feeds the material in. It did start in America.
Right.
I've got to be honest, it wasn't us who introduced it first of all.
America.
Well, you've got to remember the TR came from America,
Yeah, that's true.
but it was an English guy who designed it. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay, because they all came from Clayson, right?
Well,
Clayson, Clay's combines, right?
Clay's combines, the guy who's got most of the, if you look at the early patents and what have you on the early TR, is a guy called Bill Rowland Hill, who came from our Red Cousins event initially. So, but what we've got here, by putting these drives on the inside, we get an extra advantage. It's not just width, it's not just a simple drive line. What we actually get here is the ability to synchronize the speed of that feed roller. In America, it was called the stone roller because it was primarily to bypass our electric stone track that we had at the front. But it's synchronized to the speed of the rotors. So the faster the rotors go, the faster that dynamic feed roll goes. So
because it's driven off.
It's driven directly off the rotor. It's driven directly off the rotor. So what you have there is a perfect feed, regardless of whether you're doing beans or small grain.
Or corn.
Or corn. Yeah, well, corn is something that's coming about in the UK. It's one of those ones we haven't had the climate, but it's starting to become a a bigger issue to get corn coming into the UK.
I saw a couple of fields. I think they're feeding pheasants with it.
Yeah.
Down in the Cotswolds. I drove by through there.
Well,
I was like, there's some corn down there.
Most of the corn will go through a forage harvester and into the clamp. Or the other big one is anaerobic digestion here, but they chop it rather than use it as grain maize.
Yep.
So that's what happens with most of that at the moment.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's good. So this is where your dynamic.
The dynamic feed roll is
roller is
there,
in there.
driven from the rotor on the far side.
So you can see the gearbox.
Yep.
It's underneath that.
Underneath the cover.
Panel there, but I know that mine does not have that.
No, you won't.
And I was quite surprised when I saw that. I saw it at another dealer in the
Yep.
U.S., Messick's Equipment. They had a 1090
Yes.
there, and it had that.
The 1090 would have
And I
it.
thought, wow, what is that?
Mhm.
And I thought maybe they were trying to do like a cylinder, like a cylinder
Yep.
combine to start it before it
Yeah,
goes
yeah.
into the. And I guess essentially that is kind of what that is.
Yeah, but there's no thrashing elements underneath it. There's no concave. The fun thing with it is with virtually every crop, there is one big exception, which is I'd call it oilseed rape, they'd call
Okay.
it canola.
Canola.
With that one exception, what the power that is absorbed by that dynamic feed roll is power that then is not needed by the rotors themselves.
Right.
So it tends to be a very power neutral device. Canola, because of the volume of it, that tends to be the one that does actually increase the load a little bit. But it does just help the feed coming into the front of
Feeds
the
it in
rotor.
more evenly and smoothly.
Your machine late evening, when certain small grains get damp,
Right.
you'll notice a lot of banging and noise coming through from the front of the rotor.
Indigestion is what I call that.
Indigestion, but the feed roll completely cures it.
Okay.
So the first time you drive one of these things with the feed roll, and you're used to the old system, it's silent, and you want are the rotors turning?
Yeah,
because
you start getting nervous.
You start getting nervous, but it does smooth out the whole crop flow going through the machine.
Cool. Let's move to the front because there is a difference that I saw right away.
All right.
The pivot
Yep.
for the terrain tracers, what they used to call it, I think they still probably do.
Yep.
Used to be up top,
Yes. It's
so
moved,
now it's down there.
it's moved down to the bottom. This combine is going to be running with very large headers.
Right.
The standard header or unit that we'll be using with this one would be a 50-foot Macron
Okay.
or 16-row chopping maize head.
Okay.
What we have here, we've had to beef this up tremendously to cope with these big headers that these machines capable of running. So that's the big change. You'll notice also, we've always tried to do this matched width. We always try and keep the width down the combine the same. So
Right.
what you'll notice with your CR is it'll be a little bit narrower at the front.
Right.
This one here, because we've got the bigger rotors, the big 24-inch rotors at the front, we've actually made this that little bit wider.
Right.
And then we can keep this width running down the entirety of the combine. We don't want to converge.
No.
We don't want to converge within the machine because it's a sin. And what that will do, it wastes power, but it also gives us a blockage point.
Yes.
So we try and avoid that completely.
This deck here, there's no longer the stone trap,
Nope.
electronic
No.
stone trap.
We don't need the electronic
gone.
stone trap at the front. It's gone because we've got the dynamic feed roll is now doing stone protection.
And now the stone trap opens up and dumps, right?
It does, but this combat, we've got to check to see what we're going to do for specification.
Okay.
This one's got quite a few of the toys on it.
Okay.
But what we've got with this one is it's hydraulically driven from the cab. So you have what we call a procedure.
Yep.
Press the button, the stone trap will open, flap itself a couple of times, and shut itself back up.
That's an excellent idea. I
Yeah,
like
so you
that.
don't have to leave the seat.
Yeah, leaving the seats unproductive.
Unproductive. As soon as you leave the seat, hopefully the combine's not moving.
Right.
0 tons an hour out.
Yeah, so good. That's so good.
We don't want to see that at all.
Okay. All right, so we'll move around the next.
Okay.
Keep on going. We got tracks on this one.
Yeah, well, tracks are something that we use in Europe, whereas in the States you're not so restricted on the width, so you can use tools.
Yes.
But where we've got to keep these things to, well, this one at the moment is 3.5 meters wide.
Yeah.
So we have to use these track belts to be able to do it. This combine, by the time you put 15 tons in the grain tank, and over a ton of fuel in the back, and all the other 5 or 6 tons of header on the front. We're going to get this thing pretty close to the wrong side of 50 tons.
Right.
So we don't want to be causing compaction to the ground that pays the bills. So that's why we're using these belt systems. Most of the big combines you see in the UK will be on tracks.
All right, hold on there. Does it have a 4-wheel drive unit along with the tracks or no?
It's a little bit of belt and braces if you put 4-wheel drive on the back of it. We can do it.
Yeah.
We can do it. We've changed the way that we do it with this machine. Traditionally what we've done is we've used a what we call a wheel motor.
Yep.
So a mud hog wheel motor that goes on the back. They're a little bit wasteful in power if you're not using it, because they cause a lot of drag.
Yes.
So what we've done, effectively the rear axle, this is very similar to a front axle on a tractor now.
Yep.
So what we have to do, put the internals in, the differential, the final drives, and then we use a hydrostatic unit where the prop shaft will go in.
So you've taken the drives out of the wheels themselves.
Yeah, and put it into an axle. No involvement with it whatsoever. When we were testing this thing this year around Europe, we went to the guys who were driving it and we said, right, how does the IntelliSpread system work? How are you getting on with that? What IntelliSpread system?
Yeah, that's
and
a good answer.
And that is how technology should work.
Yeah.
The operator has no involvement with it whatsoever.
Right. That's what IntelliSystem, because you're not even thinking about
You're
it.
not
It's
even
just doing its thing, and when you turn around and you see what it's done,
Yep.
you're not even going to think about it because it's done right.
It's done right.
There you
It's
go.
done right.
That's good.
The other one we've done now that we've got rid of that belt at the top, is we've actually moved the chopper from where it used to be around there all the way up to the top here.
Okay. So the chopper's actually up in.
It's
Oh,
yep.
yeah, you
Oh
can
yeah.
see there.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the rotor of the gearbox here. So when we're swathing or dropping the straw out the back of the machine,
Yep.
what we do is we pass it over the top of a slow-moving chopper. We slow the chopper down, and it passes over the top and then out the back. So again, regardless of whether the combine's going down a hill, it's still got the ability to power the straw out the back of the machine. It doesn't cause damage. It does not cause damage to the straw. We were baling behind this machine in the UK, running big bales through it, not an issue whatsoever.
That's good.
So that was absolutely perfect. The only problem is a 50-foot straw swath is something to bale up. You don't want the combine driver backing up over the swath because it goes beyond the bonnet.
Well, you shouldn't have to.
You shouldn't have to.
Yeah. But
You
there's
shouldn't
going to
have
be an event
There's
somewhere.
There's going to be a badger hole in
And there's
the
going to be a
somewhere.
very upset baler operator when it happens.
Baler drivers typically are the most stroppy operators on the farm. They want you driving in straight lines. You can't wiggle when you come out at the end.
I've heard a lot of balers.
Yeah. Okay. So you know about this.
Oh yeah, I know all about it.
Obviously, to get away when we're unloading, the tubes are getting longer and longer and longer.
They are.
So what we're doing at the moment, we're using this folding. I mean, you can see the size of this thing.
Take a look up Paul. Now, is there different?
Yeah, no, there's different lengths. We changed this tube at the back, so you can see here. This is quite a long tube, and then the extension bit at the back here is then bending back towards the combine. So we can put a shorter tube on there, and then when it folds at 90 degrees rather than back to keep the length down.
Well, as some of my viewers know, I torqued mine against a tree, and it's very expensive. That's a $5,000 repair if you do it yourself. If you have New Holland come out and do it, tack a couple $3,000 for it. They're not, because they're going to need a crane and all the other stuff.
Don't do it in the first place.
Yeah, we did it. We did it the farmer way with a front end loader,
Yes.
and it worked great.
It works. It works. Well, once you get the hang of just tipping it out a little bit from the size of the combine,
I just learned that you don't make right-hand turns, make left-hand turns.
Always.
Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
keep it away from
And
the
you
fence.
have to think about that when you go into a field too.
Yeah.
Because we have small fields.
Yes.
And if you get into one of these fields that has an overshot corner, you can really screw things up. So I make the right and then make the lefts around there, so the tube is on the right,
Always
on
the
the
way.
left side.
Always the way. This is the old experience of it. So the big change, we've got the whole thing locked up at the back of the minute.
Right.
But the big change here where we turn the engine round is with the gearbox at the back. We're using what we call a continuously variable transmission, so like the tractor transmissions, to be able to drive the rotors. This gives us a little bit of a trick insofar as we can reverse the rotors. Now that we've dispensed with the variator,
Right.
we've got the ability now to, we again, like we call it a procedure, it can rock the rotor. So if you do plug it,
Find it, yeah.
so you can just rock it out from inside the cab. In testing this year, we made a point of blocking it.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, we made a point of doing it. And we
Was it hard?
It was the French, and it was about 9 o'clock at night in Bali, in wet Bali.
Okay.
So they managed to do it.
They managed to do it.
They managed to do it. But they didn't manage to leave the cab to unblock it. 10 minutes, didn't have to leave the seat, and they could rock it back to rock it out.
So in the event that you do really lock this thing up,
Yep.
obviously you deter the concaves away, and then you
Yep.
can't, just in the worst case scenario, you can't rock it out. Is there a slug wrench for it?
No,
It's
we
not.
we haven't come across the need for it.
Okay.
In all the testing,
Okay.
the CVT has always managed to clear itself.
Able to do that. So, all right, so that was kind of a new bit of information. So there is no variable speed. It is a constant velocity transmission that runs the rotor.
No, it's variable speed.
It's very,
So
there's no variator in there.
There's no variator, but we do the variation in speed
Okay.
by these continuously variable transmissions, which is a hybrid of a mechanical drive
Right.
with a hydrostatic over the back of it to do the speed variation.
Got it.
Now, the combine itself's got a bit of intelligence, because hydrostatic drive is not as efficient as a pure mechanical drive.
20% loss. Yeah.
So what the combine will do in the ratios, and there are 3 of them for the speeds, what it will try and do is run at the optimum speed with the minimum hydrostatic element. So that it will actually try and run as mechanical as it possibly can to get the efficiency of the drive going through.
Okay.
It's clever.
It is. Yeah.
Smarter than me.
Yeah, smarter than me too, because I like mechanical things, so I understand.
Yeah,
them. When it gets into the
understand.
computer side, I was like, I don't live on a laptop. But,
No.
Yeah.
But with these machines nowadays, what we're trying to do, there's a big problem in Europe, and with my colleagues in the States say much the same thing, is that getting hold of good operators is becoming harder and harder and harder.
Right.
So if we can do as much as we can with the machine itself, take down if we can use intelligence in the machine to make a pretty mediocre operator as good as a fully experienced operator, that's when we can get the best out of this machine. What we don't want to do is
The machine will teach you.
the machine will teach you.
Right.
The machine will teach you. I mean, I've been driving combines longer than I care to remember,
Right.
and some of the things this thing does, I've been driving combines for over 30 years, and I didn't know that there was still much more to learn.
Right. All right. One more thing. How do you get the ladder down?
The ladder comes down, so this panel at the back opens, I think we're locked up a minute.
Yeah.
Oh,
they got it.
it's got the lock.
So this flips up.
So, yeah, so this opens up, and then the ladder pulls down. It's not just aesthetics. What we're trying to do is we're trying to control the air movement around the back of the combine. So what we've got over the top of the engine is fully enclosed.
Okay.
We've got 3 fans, because obviously the engine's in a different direction. We take the air for the engine, for the cooling fans, and also for the air intake from just behind the grain tank. That's the cleanest air that we can get on the combine. And then what we do is 3 fans blowing the air with the caps on it, and also the side panel on it. We get a real high velocity of air going over the engine, making sure that all the dust, all the detritus is completely taken off the engine.
Around the components of the machine itself, is that air helping keep all the dust off of the machine itself?
With the old design of CR, when we used to blow the air, we always try and keep an airflow coming over the engine.
Right.
That's absolutely key to keeping the dust down and reducing the possibility of a thermal incident, we like to call it.
Yeah, that's nice.
So what we try and do with that, when we were dragging the air across the engine, there's opportunities for air dust to get sucked in and dragged down over in between the rotors and places like that. With the design of this, where we're drawing the air from the rotor side all the way to the back, you'll notice there are loops on the back of the machine as well. We keep the air, we keep it clean. We've gone one step further. What we're going out is we've encapsulated and covered all the hot parts of the engine. So the manifold, the turbo, the exhaust pipes, all of this has been covered so that there's no chance of dust landing settling on all the hot parts of the engine.
Prevent the thermal incident.
Yeah.
Thermal incidents are bad.
Thermal incidents bad.
Yes, bad. Equals bad. No matter what it is, it's bad.
Yeah, you don't want one of those.
No.
You don't want one of those. Invariably it means a conversation with the insurer.
And they're not going to be happy either.
No, they're not.
These are not TR7s you priced combines.
No.
These are serious operators.
They are, but it will do the work of 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 TR70s.
They're just next level, beyond anything.
It's beyond anything that we've got at the moment.
Of any manufacturer.
Yeah, and bear in mind that we've got a world record still with the 1090 at the moment.
Right.
So we've still got that one at the moment.
Keep breaking records. So this has a hitch on it, which we don't have.
That hitch is probably going to be an option. Because this thing will be running with a 50-foot table,
Right.
it is very, very unlikely that you want to tow a 50-foot header behind a 50-foot machine.
Out in Nebraska, no problem.
Yeah.
So are there cameras or anything back here to see what's going on back here?
There are 3 cameras on the machine as standard.
Yep.
Bearing in mind we haven't set the standard for this machine in the UK. So at the moment we've got a rear view camera, which I think is obligatory for all machines for safety. This one's actually got a second camera on the hitch, so for hitching on, and it's got a third camera up on the unloading tube, so you can look into the trailer to see.
Right.
There is another option, and you can see just where the light is at the side is a little bit. And what we can do there is we can put cameras at the side, which gives us a 360-degree view around the machine. So you get a bird's eye view around the machine to see what's happening.
You always got to see what's around.
You've got to see
But
what's
you
around.
don't see it.
So that's where the bills come from.
So we're going to do the math on the tanks, on the grain tank. How many bushels we're
How many
because
bushels in 20?
You guys use liters.
Well, yes, just to confuse the French, we also use miles an hour. So we haven't
Miles an hour and liters.
we haven't gone completely over European just yet.
Yeah. So how many liters is that?
The tank,
The tank.
20,000 liters.
20,000 liters equals 550 bushels of storage capacity.
Okay, so that's about
He did the math. He did the math.
He did the math.
He did the
Well,
math.
well,
He says, I think we got it right, and I think he did have it.
Okay.
So about 550 bushels of grain storage in this thing, and that is in tons would be.
we would say in metric tons, it's just about 15 tons a week. So it's a little bit maize being a little bit denser, you'll get a little bit more weight with maize. But
A bushel's a bushel.
a bushel is a bushel.
It is a bushel. So wheat is what, 60 pounds?
Yeah, now you've got me
60
thinking.
pounds for wheat, 60 pounds for soybeans, 56 pounds for corn.
Okay,
In a
so
bushel.
it'll be a bit
So
like
56. I do believe rye is the same 56.
If we put peas in,
Barley and wheat is around the same as 30.
yeah, it's not as heavy as wheat. Yeah, it's not as heavy as wheat. I've got a little something to show you on here as well. This is something that, right, you're going to have to wind your head because it will come.
Yeah, these panels are big.
So
That elevator.
that elevator is a little bit on the
I
lower
mean,
side.
I don't think the mill has an elevator at it to go to the top of that 570,000 bushel bin. It's that big. That thing is big.
The one thing with this machine is we haven't designed it into a corner. This has been designed that should the need arise, we can go beyond it.
Right.
We can go beyond it. There's plenty more numbers after 11 if we need them.
Right. Oh, that's true.
So-
You just need bigger buildings to house them.
That's it, and bigger fields to run.
Bigger fields to run.
But one little trick with this machine is this little white box at the back here behind. This is an option. What it is, it's a near-infrared sensor. So what it does is it shines light at the crop, and then it reads the reflection. For a combine, it can read the protein. So it can read the protein. So it can establish the protein in real time. Now,
And that's logged up in the computer.
that's logged up in the computer
Nice.
and sent out to the cloud, and it comes up on your map, so you can see what it is. What they use that for in Australia is what they call blending. So if you've got some wheat that is very high quality milling wheat, and you've got some wheat that is pretty shoddy feed wheat, you can blend the two together and get everything over the line for milling and get the premium for it.
That's good.
But one thing we're starting to see with legislation is this thing about nitrogen. They're very worried about that. Let's you establish through protein the nitrogen content of the crop. So it's important for malting barley, but the other thing that's important for looking forward is how people are starting to get the nitrogen usage to see whether they're being efficient with the nitrogen usage or it's being wasteful. In Europe, or certainly within the United Kingdom, over the last year, there's been a technology grant that enables people to fund half of the cost of putting that on. So it's something that they're being a little bit clever. I mean, that unit there, we can take that off the combine when we finish with it and put the combine in the shed. We can put it on a forage harvester.
Okay.
We can take it from a forage harvester, we can put it on a slurry tank, and it can interpret the nitrogen. And it can interpret the dry matter within forage harvest.
Okay, so let's stop there. It's expensive.
I think in the United Kingdom at the moment, the entire system is £20,000.
20,000 pounds, so you're going to add 27 cents for every pound for US dollars. I'm not doing the math.
Okay.
But yeah, you're looking at a fair bit of it's expensive unit.
It's
But
expensive unit.
it's making you money by being able to blend it
Yeah.
and get your nitrogen application from the right spots. It'll pay for itself in one season. Yeah, oh
Well,
yeah.
this is what our Australian colleagues say, because they're very much ahead of the curve, certainly further in front of us. And what they're doing with that, using the blending, they're saying that it'll pay for itself inside a season.
Yeah, well, I can imagine, because the difference between feed wheat and milling wheat
There's a premium.
it's monumental.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the mills aren't liking that because they like to buy sheets and blend it themselves.
They're the ones that usually are the gospel. This is feed wheat, sir. That is milling.
Whether it's true or
Whether
not.
it's true or not, you can't argue the
But
toss.
they can't just
Or they can try. They can try. But better information that lets you manage the job better.
actually puts power to the farmer.
It does.
It really does, because the mill is buying feed wheat and high quality milling wheat. They're blending it themselves because they're going to make a lot more.
They're going to make more money than you are.
Yeah, I got it. That's
So take it out of their hands.
So the concaves that are in this, these are for wheat, right?
Yeah. So this is what we call a small grain compost.
Small grain concave.
So what we've got here, because we've got the big rotor around this machine now, the old combine like yours would have had a single piece concave.
No, mine's too.
It's cheap?
It is.
Oh, it's got the extension.
It's got the
It's got the
extension.
extension. But to take it in and out, you take it out as 1 lump.
Yes.
And it's 100 weight. It's
heavy.
It's heavy. It's heavy.
It's not light.
So now we're making it bigger. What we've done here is we've segregated it up into 3 sections to be able to do that. And they've thought about it a little bit, so you can get an impact gun up onto the bolt, so that you can put it out quickly.
So if I wanted to turn this to corn and soybeans,
Yeah.
how big of a job would it be to take that? How long do you think it would take? Minutes or hours?
Minutes.
Minutes.
I mean,
Okay.
it's now that we've got the bolts, get a ratchet gun, ratchet gun in there, and you can knock those bolts out and pull it straight out.
And the rasp bars, you don't need to do anything with the rasp bars to change the crop.
No.
Okay.
One thing I would need to check with this machine is the sieves. For small grain, we tend to use a smaller gap between the wires, so we use an 1.8" sieve for small grain, whereas on the current machine we'd use an 1.5" to go out to maize.
Right. Yeah, you would be changing this as well.
Yeah.
And generally anybody that is running these, they would have different concaves and they would have the different sieves.
They would, and they'd have bought the machine initially as specifically as a maize unit, because this one is a maize unit, and this drive shaft that drives the header is variable speed, so that you can change the picking speed as you go along.
So that takes away the belts, no more belts, no more chains. Life is good because I've changed enough belts on any combine or any piece of equipment. It's always the one in the back, all the belts, that blows up. I think they do that on purpose.
We do, and there used to be a chain around the back of the elevator that used to drive.
Well, there's one on mine, it's way up at the top, and if you neglect it, you're going to be sitting.
And because it's hidden around the back, everyone does neglect
They
it.
do. There's a panel in the inside of the box in the green tank, and you have to pull that panel out. You get bloody knuckles every time, and then you get up there and you can only squirt grease on it or oil on it, and then you got to get out, turn it a little bit, pray that you got the dry spot, and then hit it again. Oilers. That's what I was going to say, Oilers. But I like your idea better. It's just get rid of the dark.
Get rid of chains. Get rid of chains. That was the last one. That one there. All the prototypes that we had over last year still had the chain there. That's gone now.
Yep. So there was a question that I had, and I think you've already answered it because this combine is like 95%. The bottoms of the grain tanks were weak. They were thin. They wore out within.
This was what I was telling you about the how you specify this thing when you order. There was an option on the old grain tank of your one that you could make it abrasive. So what you get with the abrasive tank is the bottom of the auger troughs, the augers themselves would be hard ox coated, so that they are more resilient to maize, to rice.
Soybeans are the abrasive ones.
Yeah, because you're running near the dirt the whole time. Now this system here, to try and make the what we call the product offering, because all of these machines are configured separately for different markets. My machine will be different from Germany, different from France. But to make it simple, what we did was this one has got the abrasive option in it. So and also the abrasive one extends to the unloading tube. So if you had an abrasive unloading tube, it was a much tougher auger, much tougher tube to be able to do it. So you would have to check with your machine, which is a Grand Iron one, to see how it was built originally.
I actually have the build sheet. They actually had the build sheet, and they said, "Do you want it?" I'm like, heck yeah, I want it.
Yeah, let's see what they got.
And I don't understand it because it's in numbers, and then you got to go, whatever. That's for another day.
We call it the variante system. So all of those numbers refer to a specific option on the machine. So, but with this one, trying to simplify, reduce that number of options, we're running with abrasive on this one.
Sounds good. Yeah, at least that's an option because when I bought the combine, I bought it on an auction.
Yes.
And of course, when you're auctioning something off, they show the nicest parts of it. They didn't get in and show that. But that had already been repaired. They had put stainless or nickel troughs in the bottom of them, and they had fixed it. So I was quite happy. And I really love the combine. I had a couple of issues with it, but they're just normal wear and tear stuff. It was nothing that was, I would personally swear, the combine. We fixed them up in the field, back going within literally 2 hours. So, and that was the way it was with every New Holland combine that I had. I ran John Deere's. I never put them on film that I ran John Deere's, but
I wouldn't run up to
I ran a 9600 years ago. I ran the old 4400 for what they were. They were good little combines, but they had their quirks. The New Holland, you just go to work. When they break, they all break. But
everything that's man-made.
I've always been partial to the yellow combines. No matter what I've used in New Holland in the past that I didn't like, I've never, ever been given a reason to hate the New Holland. Anyways, I guess the next thing we do is to actually get up in the cab. So, let's go take a look up there and see what you...
Let's have a look in the cab.
Let's take a look in the cab. I don't think we're going to get all 4 of us up in there, but...